Alright, hello and welcome to the Pokeball modeling tutorial. So, this is going to be a video tutorial that just takes you through how to model the Pokeball, model a Pokeball like this one here, in 3ds Max. And I'm doing this so that it can go alongside the Word document that you've been given. So if you find that hard to follow, you can look at this video tutorial and it will help you out. So we're not going to need this, so we can hide that. We can hide all of these, and we'll just start here with our grid. Alright, so we're going to start with step 1, which is we're going to add a sphere to our grid, and then what we want to do is we want to edit that sphere's radius and segments. So we've almost got it bang on there. 40 centimeters is what we want for the radius. So put that in, and then in terms of segments, and I'll press F4 on the keyboard so that you can see the edge faces. We want it to be 33 segments. What this does for us is it gives us a nice middle parting across the middle that we can use to make that indent in our Pokeball. So once we've done this, it'll be a good idea for us to center that right at the center of the grid, or center of the world. We can do that really easily by coming down here and either typing 0 in each of these axis values. So you've got X, you've got Y, you've got Z, or you can just right click the double arrows and that will center the sphere for you. So that's our first step. The second step now, we are going to create a cylinder. So let's go back to our creation button and let's get a cylinder. So I'm just going to draw this out here. Don't worry about what it comes out as initially, because we can always control the parameters right here. So we are going to set this cylinder to a radius of 12 centimeters. So let's go and change this here. Type in 12, and then the height we need it to be 4.5. Then we are going to position the cylinder using our axis values again at the bottom of the screen, and the guide says to put X at 0, so we'll just put that at 0. Remember again, you can just right click these double arrows to get it zeroed out. We're going to set Y to minus 35. 35.5, and then we're going to leave Z as 0. Now you might notice this isn't exactly in the right position compared to the picture in the Word document, and that's because we need to change our rotation for that to match up. So we're going to switch to our rotation tool. You can press E on your keyboard, or you can select the rotation tool up here. And then, once you're on that, you can set your X value to 90 degrees. And that should get that in the right position. So, looking from the front, this is what it should look like. And that should match up with the Word document. So, we'll go on to step 3 next. Alright, so step 3. So step 2 should have left you with this. Your cylinder should be overlapping with your sphere. Now I'm just going to hide this grid because it's starting to get in the way. To do that, just press G. So what we want to do now is we want to cut the cylinder away from the sphere. So we're going to go on the sphere. We are going to go back to this tab here with your plus sign, and we're going to get compound objects. So you want to click on this drop down here, click on compound objects, and you want to click on Pro Boolean. So Pro Boolean, or Boolean, is just a way that we can use other shapes to cut into the shapes that we've got selected. It's the simplest way of putting it. So click on Pro Boolean, and then we're going to pick another shape to cut into our sphere. The only other shape we have is a cylinder, so click Start Picking and click on your cylinder, and that should cut a nice hole into your cylinder, and this is where we're going to put our Pokeball button. So once you've done that, click Start Picking again just to turn Pro Boolean off, and now that's been applied to your mesh. Now in the Word document guide there is something that talks about Smart Extrude. That doesn't quite work for this tutorial, so just look at the documentation for that and be aware of it for maybe future tutorials, or if you want to make a more complex Pokeball. So that is step 3. Okay, so we're going to jump into step 4. Step 4 is quite a big step, so bear with me. So the first thing we want to do is we want to convert your sphere to an editable poly. So we can do that by right clicking and clicking on Convert to, and then Convert to Editable Poly. Equally, you can search for it up in the modifier list and find it there. But we've got what we need now. And the next thing we want to do is we want to use weld. So what weld does is it basically welds, in our case, two vertices together within a certain distance. So we've selected our vertices around where the button is going to be, and what I want you to do is I want you to click the weld settings next to the weld button. That will bring up this little box here. Yours might look a little bit different. Don't worry too much about that, as long as you've got somewhere where you can put the value in. So we're adjusting the weld threshold here, and we want to set that according to the guide to about 1.5 centimeters. So I'm going to type that in, 1.5. Press OK, and this should be the result. So once we've done that, we then want to use the cut tool to make sure that any isolated vertices are connected. So an isolated vertice, let's click off this, is one that's like this, where it's just hanging out, no edges are going to it, and it needs connecting. So we're going to do that for that one, maybe for this one as well, and a few others, just to make sure that we don't get any issues later on down the road. Now you can find your cut tool over here in your settings when you're in a selection mode, but I find it a lot easier to click on this button here at the top, and it opens up a big visual library of all of your tools. So we can find the cut button up here. If we select that, we can start to connect the dots. So I'm going to start with this one up here. We want to connect this vertice straight away over to here. And what's nice is it makes the connection for you. You just need to click on either end. Now to get rid of the selection, you just need to right click, and then that will get rid of it. So if I don't right click, this is what happens. I'll click this one and then it will just keep going. So you want to right click after you've done the operation that you intended to do. Okay, so up here at the top, just want to connect these. I want to connect this here. Remember we said we were going to do this one. Connect that there. Now, the reason we're doing this is because generally it's good practice to work with quads and tries. Quads and tries, squares and triangles is what we want to work with. Any shape bigger than that is not good practice to work with, and the simple explanation for why that is because it can cause problems in game engines. So if you are making a model for a game engine, it's best to just stick to quads and tries, and that's why we're doing this. There's a lot more technicalities behind it, but we won't go into that today. So, almost done. Ooh. Let's go back. So this should be somewhat symmetrical. Try and keep it that way. So I've just had to undo and go back because I realised it didn't match the other side quite. But now we should be alright. We'll connect this one over here. And we'll connect this one over here. And we'll connect that one there. And connect that one there. So now there should only be squares and triangles. Sometimes these squares will look like trapeziums. So this is still a quad up here. That's a quad. That's a tri. That's a quad. And so that's why we're doing this. But you'll notice we still have some places where we've not got a tri or a quad. For example, this looks like a quad, but it's actually a five-sided shape. So you've got one side there, you've got another edge here, another edge here, another edge here, and another edge here. So we're going to use target weld to fix that in a second. But that's the first part of step 4.